Dr. Love, Dr. Bettina Love, she is the William F. Russell Professor at Teachers College at Columbia University. She's got a new book, Punished for Dreaming, How School Reform Harms Black Children and How We Heal. I wanted her to come in before the book actually comes out in September, because I want to have this conversation around education. And so let me welcome Dr. Bettina Love to the Karen Hunter Show. Hello.
Hey, it's wonderful to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for coming through. I was talking with somebody, one of my producers actually earlier today, about, the need for education. And, I've been going back and forth and vacillating with my own students, and my message to them is get out. Like, unless you're a science major where you need to actually know stuff, because we don't need uneducated doctors. The rest of this is really a social experiment. So get your, so I make sure I send them to the sporting arena, because it's a commuter school, so they rarely go to the gym. Like, I make them do things to get them involved in campus activities, because that's really what it's about. But the flip side, I'm imagining, is when you are in spaces that are anti-Black, it could be really damaging. Talk about the impetus for writing Punished for Dreaming.
Yeah, this book is a book that I've been wanting to write for a very long time. I was born and raised in upstate New York, Rochester, New York. And I've always been curious about what happened to kids like me. I went to a very big high school. I went to vocational high school. We actually had an airplane inside my high school. That's how big it was. We're talking about 2,000, 2,500 kids. And my freshman class, there was about 600, 700 of us, and we graduated about 150. So I've always been curious. From that day I walked on that stage, I walked across that stage and I graduated. I was always thinking, where are all the kids? Where are all my classmates that I started school with? And so I really wanted to understand the 80s, the 90s, the war on drugs, the DARE program. I really wanted to understand how reform and educational policies do educational harm. And so this is a book that I've been trying to write since I was 18 years old, and I walked across that stage wondering where my classmates were.
But you kept walking.
I kept walking.
You went on, got a master's, PhD. So, what was different in your home or in your life that had you walk across to get that diploma and then keep going?
Well, I have a hell of a jump shot. Let me just be very clear. So I went to college on a basketball scholarship.
Come on through, jump shot.
Oh, yes. I got a hell of a jump shot. I averaged about 30, 35 points my senior year of high school. I was recruited by all the top schools to go to college. So that's how I went to college. I did not, without an athletic scholarship, I was not going to college. And so that's what was the difference. I was not smarter than any of my friends. I didn't work harder than any of my other friends. I just had a hell of a jump shot. And I think, when you are looking at anti-racism and white supremacy, and you're looking at discrimination and the lack of resources in your communities, it falls to these talents. You got to have a jump shot. You got to know how to rap. You got to have this talent. So I always say, we got to be extraordinary just to be ordinary. And so I was fortunate enough that I had a hell of a jump shot to get me to college and get me beyond that. But without basketball, there is no Dr. Bettina Love.
I just started reading Melodoma Some's book, and one of them. I just I ordered it as used. It was out of print, and I was reading the first few pages and I'm floored. And he's talking about being sent off from Africa to a French school, and basically have the African beaten out of him, all of the spirituality, all of the language, and then coming back home and being foreign and not being able to communicate with his people, but also looking down his nose at, the primitive, because now he's above it all. And then he got angry and he said he wanted to kill his father for sending him into this place and stripping him of all that. And I just think about, I'm speaking English right now. The way that I view other people is through this colonized lens of like, what's proper, what's not proper English versus, and every day it's a battle for me to appreciate and value just every different form of humanity that's not like me, because we've been conditioned to put ourselves, to get to a place, and then you're up there, and then everyone else should. And if you can't make it, then you're just not good enough. Something's wrong with you, And if you're Black, you can really never be. But so this system is effed up, right? So is education, the way we teach, even right for us?
Yeah, so I think there's a difference between education and school. And my good friend Dave Stovall talks about this a lot. I think in our schools, we do school. I'll give you a story. I have a set of twins. I have a little boy and a girl. And around 6 years old, maybe 7, my daughter got like student of the week at school. And we were all celebrating her. And we were like, you are wonderful. You're beautiful. You're smart. We were just, trying to instill that love of learning and being appreciative that she was doing the work in school. And my daughter at 6 says, oh, it's easy to get student of the week. I said, really? It's easy? She said, yeah, you sit on the carpet, you smile. And when the teacher says something, you nod your head. My daughter was 6 years old and she had figured out what school was. She knew that school was performance. She knew that school means to be conform. And she knew that she didn't really have to have any type of voice, any type of understanding. She just had to perform the idea of what a teacher thought a student was. And it blew my mind that at 6, she understood that. But what we want is education. We want critical thinking. We want problem-solving skills. We want students to be disagreeable, but not disagree in a way that results to violence. We want students to be able to understand that you have an array of emotions and you're 12 years old, and we should be thinking about those emotions and working through those emotions. Education is about being human. And this is what we want schools to be, places where students can be human, can be loved, and can be curious. And so what we have right now is school. And if you don't play school well, if you don't do school well, if you don't conform to school well, you'll be pushed out. And what we are striving for on college campuses and elementary schools and high schools is really to have education. And in this country right now, where we have so much violence, I would argue that education is going to be one of the only ways we're going to be able to stop the carnage is through education. Dr. King said we need policy. Dr. King said, listen, I'm paraphrasing here, but one of my favorite quotes by King, he said, policy can't change hearts and minds, but it can stop the heartless. And so we need policy, and then we need education. Because if we're going to try and teach these students that everyone has contributed in this world, that no one is takers, that everybody, culture and history and ancestors have given and made this country a democracy so we can have less violence and more understanding and more care and give people more grace and be disagreeable, but still find a place where we can be human and have conversations. It's going to go through education right now. I truly feel like education has to save democracy. And so we need education, not schooling.
So how do we, I just think about, because I'm always pulling the thread to get back to I just want the whole sweater to be gone. So I'm just keep pulling, I'm pulling. And then you realize, okay, education was started so people could like be good factory workers. They didn't want you to know but so much. And then we have like, what happened to phonics and cursive writing? Like the things that somebody studied and taught us that, when you write in cursive, it maybe they knew this inherently, that it awakens parts of your brain. It's not about, archaic ways of being, but, in the phonics that I learned with the electric company, cat. Thank you, Morgan Freeman. I learned how to read before I went to school because they had TV that gave me phonics, and then there was a phonics book. There's no more phonics, Dr. Bettina Love. So even, kids are just regurgitating what they're being told without having to sound it out or think it out. To your point, how do we bring that back? And who's responsible for upending this thing to begin with? Because parents who send their children to school expect them to know stuff. Like they're spending most of their time there, right? So how do we reverse this? Where does the healing come from?
So I think the healing, we have to, I think that there are really good research. And then there's research that is not that well thought out. There's research that's not done with Black kids. There's research that's not done with students of color. And that research oftentimes gets into our schools. And so we have to be very clear that parents should be asking and deciding what is taught to our children. And it's a catch-22 because I do think we should be having more conversations about what curriculum is taught. I do think we should have more conversations about what teachers are teaching our children. But that means we have that conversation in community where everybody understands that we come to the table in public education and everybody gets a say. Not that you get to shut down because you don't like a certain part of history. Not that you get to shut down because you don't like what is being taught. Is that we all should be able to come to the table. Education, reform, and policies and teaching practices should be much more transparent. Teachers and parents and community folk should have much more of a say about what is taught to their children in a democratic way, where we understand that everybody gets to come to the table with their culture and their language and their religions and be honored and be valued, because this is public education. And so we have to let the reformers and ask them to back away from education. You've done enough harm. And we need to put actual folks in the community, actual teachers who have shown us that they can teach, and give them the power and principals to the power to dictate what happens in their schools. We need more power, but we also don't need the power in the hands of a few who watch and only read one book and one station.
Dr. Bettina Love is here. She has a new book coming out, Punished for Dreaming. I'm sorry. But you have another book, We Want to Do More Than Survive. We want to do more than survive. Abolitionist teaching in the pursuit of educational freedom. And you kick off chapter 1 with a quote from W.B. Du Bois, where he talks about we who are dark can see America in a way that white Americans cannot. And seeing our country thus, are we satisfied with its present goals and ideals? And I want to flip that around a little bit. I think W.B. Du Bois was powerful, but he was also caught up and mired in this thing called whiteness and proving himself worthy. And I'm saying that moving forward, we need to not ignore whiteness, but see our role in building the future we want to live in this way, that we're the grandparents of society. So we have to take, instead of the subservient role that our forefathers had as enslaved folk, remember that we are the grandparents of society in our DNA, the birthings of a new nation, of what the future looks like. But it requires us to step into that, meaning we need to step into the fullness of who we are and not beg for forgiveness or to be seen or to be valued, but know that everything that we are is valuable enough. And with that confidence, walk into setting this thing back the way it's supposed to be, or maybe setting it the way it's supposed to be, not back, but maybe it's never been right. You know what I'm saying? But as long as we're in, to me, a mess, and we're trying to, scoop up the eggs over here and the flour to try to make, now the ingredients are all over the damn place and we don't even have a bowl. So let's just leave this mess where it is and just start what needs to come next. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Love?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I do think we have to have an understanding of just how ruthless capitalism is and how ruthless capitalism is, and doesn't allow you to take a breath, doesn't allow you to understand what's happening to you. I don't think capitalism is redemptive in this society. And so when you say we need to fix things, we need to move differently, we need to have more conversations, that's true. But when I work 40 to 50 hours and can't put food on the table, I don't have time for these conversations. We live in a country right now where 40% of people who are insecure about housing they work every day. And so, one thing that Dr. King understood was that capitalism and racism go hand in hand. And if we really want to start to eradicate racism, then we have to go after capitalism. People need time. People need to breathe. People need ease. Like, I can't be thinking about, what's the next movement? And I got kids, I got health insurance, I got no health insurance, I'm working 50 hours, rent is going up, food is going up, inflation is going up. I need to breathe. I need to stop. I need to think. I need to reset. And so we live in a country right now that is ruthless with people's health and time and mental health right now. That's why we're in a mental health crisis, because people don't have the basic things that they need to be able to think, to be able to understand. And so we really have to be addressing a living wage in this country. We really have to be addressing healthcare in this country. We really have to be addressing housing insecurity in this country. Because if we ever want to get to a point where we can have these conversations around race and people really being able to sit with these ideas, they have to have a moment to breathe. And when you don't have a moment to breathe, when you don't have a moment to read, one of the most profound things that I've had since I've left my doctoral studies program is to be in political study with people, meaning that a group of folks get together and we just read and we talk and we try to understand and we argue and we have a good time. But that means I got time.
Yeah, no, I just got convicted because I'm like, it is a privilege and a luxury to be able to sit on a Sunday and read Malidoma Somé and then get up this morning and listen to an audiobook about focus and then be able to contemplate that to prepare for a show. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I'm fortunate and grateful. So we need that for everyone. So as you're talking, I'm thinking basic income, universal basic income. Everyone should have that. And if it means, higher taxes, I'm good with that. I'm good. I'm spending money on people's children now that I don't have. Yeah, why not? Why not? If everybody gets to eat, why are we mad about that? I don't know why we can't have people eating. You don't want to step over the homeless, but you don't want them to have a house. Make up your damn mind. And can
I say this? We have research that shows when we spend money in education, when we spend money, we have higher graduation rates, we have higher attendance, and we have less adult poverty when we spend money in education. So if we are really dedicated around these ideas of justice, put your money where your mouth is. And until we do that, I don't want to say I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm just saying that we have to be understanding that these luxuries don't just fall from the sky. You make it happen through democracy, through policy, through what you spend your money on as a country. And if we will spend what we spend on defense and war and other countries on children in our own country, we would have a different set of outcomes. It has been proven time and time again. We have good data that says when you spend, you get the outcomes that you want. And when you don't spend, you get the outcomes that you want. Because this system is not broken. It is working exactly the way it was designed.
Dr. Bettina Love, B, love, soul power. the letter B, love, soul power, was where you can follow her. BettinaLove.com. The book that's coming out in September, Punished for Dreaming, the book that's out already, We Want to Do More Than Survive, because we do.